combo fans, and welcome to the Dude Cave. I'm Jason and these are my comic book reviews for the third week of September 2015. Got 14 books to review this week, so without further ado, let's get to those reviews. So we'll kick things off this week with the indies. Got 4 books to review from 2 different companies. We're going to start off with Image, and the book I was most anticipating this week, it is Tokyo Ghost issue number 1. From Image Comics, written by Rick Remender, art by Sean Murphy, and colours by Matt Hollingsworth. So it's kind of a all-star team of creators on this book. So did it live up to my expectations? Yes, it did. I really enjoyed it. The story is set in the future. I don't know if the whole world is like this, but certainly the Isles of California. People are addicted to technology, are kind of 24/7 have these things on their head, so that they're constantly in touch with stuff and watching stuff. And you've got this guy on the front cover, Led Dent, and he's basically kind of like enforcement for the company that makes all of this stuff, so that nobody's abusing their technology, using it for illegal means. And his girlfriend is Debbie Decay, and she's the only person on these isles that doesn't have any kind of technological implants. So they've got one last job to do. They've got to catch this guy who's able to take people over and use them like characters on video games to do what he wants. And he treats all of life like a video game, has no regard for people's safety or anything. And they have to bring him in. You've got kind of the tragic love story going on here. Can Debbie kind of save her boyfriend who's just so addicted to all this technology that he's barely even human anymore? So you've got that going on. You've got a lot of sci-fi elements here. It feels a bit like Mad Max, but it also feels a bit like Judge Dredd, kind of the way they view the world as, and and there's a lot of other scientific tropes in here as well, sci-fi tropes. I did have the one problem with the book in that I had to keep going back and read, because they give you so much information that I kept having to go back, and usually that would really bug me, but it didn't with this case. It didn't ruin the story, it just helped me gain understanding. And I think this is a book that with rereading it many times, I'm going to get more from it each time I read it, as I'll spot little bits, because there is so much here. As you'd expect, art wise it is gorgeous. It's absolutely excellent how they've realised this world. Really like the character of Debbie Decay, and you can kind of really feel for her. You can really feel for her as a character, and you kind of, how is it all going to end up? Led Dent is a real badass, but I think Debbie Decay was the character in this book that I really took to, and it's her story I'm going to be most interested in following. Also, I'm really curious to find out about this world, like how is the whole world like what we see in California, or the rest of the world different, so I'm really intrigued to learn more. Enjoyable first issue, and I'm going to give Tokyo Ghost issue number 1 5 stars out of 5. So next up we go over to Valiant Comics, and we have Rye issue number 10, written by Matt Kint with art, colours and inks all by Clayton Crane. I love what they do with Clayton Crane on this book, having him do the book, because it makes it feel so different to the other books. He's got such a distinctive art style, it feels so different to the other Valiant books, which is good, because this book is different, it's set way in the future, so I like that. I think that's a really nice way to use that. This issue I really enjoyed. We're getting to see Rye on Earth, and the last arc, one of my complaints was I'd like to have spent longer on Earth and to see what Earth in the future is like. And now that Rye has been banished to Earth, kind of exiled, we're getting to see what Earth is like, the effect New Japan has on Earth, and we're discovering more. And Rye begins his quest to find the Warrior Eternal, and I'm really excited to see where that's going to land. One thing that I like, the book has slowed down, but what I like is at the earlier arcs when Rye had all his powers and his abilities, and the story, like, he'd heal quickly from stuff, so the story moved quickly. Now that he hasn't got his abilities, and he's healing a lot slower, he's feeling pain, he's feeling hunger, and I like how as he's slowed down, the story has kind of slowed down to kind of indicate that, yeah, he can't do the things like he could do them before. And he even mentions it in the story how frustrated he is for having to do things so slowly, but he knows if he rushes back to New Japan, it's just going to end badly again. He needs to, when he returns to New Japan, to be in a position where he can overthrow Father. So I'm liking that, and I don't know if that's a deliberate thing they've done or it's just a byproduct of how the story's gone, but I like how the story's kind of illustrated where Ray is at. The story's really well balanced. We follow Rai on Earth, but we're also following all of his friends that are left behind in New Japan. And I like how some of those stories are starting to join up. Spylock against the Killer Robots was excellent. All in all, this is fast becoming one of my favourite books right now, and I'm going to give Rai issue number 10 5 stars out of 5. So next up we have, sticking with Valiant, we have Bloodshot Reborn, issue number 6. Again, this is written by Matt Kint with art by Bruce. I really enjoyed this issue. Ray has no longer got the Ray Garrettson Ollie character now. He's no longer got the voices in his head. So I'm liking the building relationship with Magic. I like what's going on there, and it's good that he's got somebody like that in his life, because as he takes on more the nanites, he's going to become less human. So it's good that he's got a friend there who's going to be with him all through this, which I like. I like that. I like the whole hunt thing, and that he can sense the nanites, and the big reveal at the end about the whole hunt thing I really liked as well. I think that takes it definitely in a really interesting direction. We get a development with our police officers, Festival and Hoyt, that I never expected this development. So it's going to be interesting what's happening with them. And I also kind of like the thing of how you used to have in the Incredible Hulk TV show, how you'd have that reporter who was always like one step behind the Hulk, and just as the Hulk was leaving somewhere, and there'd be these stories of this green guy kind of saving somebody, he'd be a step behind David Banner always in the episodes, and he'd turn up at the end. And I kind of like this, and how the police are kind of just one step behind Ray, and I'm really liking that. All in all, again, this is just a really good book, and I'm going to give Bloodshot Reborn issue number 6 5 stars out of 5. So our final book for the indies this week, it is Unity issue number 22. This came out, I think it was 2 weeks ago, but I only got it last week, so here I am. This was, I'd say the best way to sum up is a satisfactory conclusion. I've enjoyed the Warmonger character, and I like how they deal with her, and I like her going up against X-Man of War. That was really cool. I didn't totally buy the plan, and that they let the characters let themselves be beaten. I didn't quite buy that, and some of the finer points of the plan I didn't quite understand. I did like the idea that because she's been around a while, that they kind of knew of her and were ready for her. I did like that idea, but some of the parts of the plan didn't quite flow for me. However, like I said, there were a lot of good things in this issue. The Exo-Man of War kicking ass was brilliant. I also really like the introduction of the character Anchor. One of my worries about Valiant at the moment is they do such a great job of introducing characters and giving them really good backstories, but often they'll use the character up in one issue or one story arc, and I'm like, there's going to come a point where you're not going to be able to make as many interesting characters, and you don't want to use them all up so quickly. So that's my only brief concern, but I did like that it's kind of left open for Warmonger. And this was, like I say, a satisfactory conclusion. I just felt with Anchor, I think if they'd have introduced him, like say in the first issue, and you're like, who's this character, and we have a little bit of his story each issue to go alongside Warmonger, I think that would have maybe given it more gravity what happens to Anchor in here. But the fact that they introduce him in one issue and he's gone, for what happens to him, it doesn't create that much gravity. But overall, I enjoyed this, and I'm going to give Unity issue number 22 4 stars out of 5. So those are my indie books this week. Next up, I'm going to review the books I got from DC Comics. So here we are now with the 4 books from DC Comics this week. And we're going to kick things off with Constantine, the Hellblazer, issue number 4. I really do like that cover. This book I did drop, but while I was in my comic shop kind of choosing like updating my pull list, which books I'm dropping, which books I'm adding that are coming up in October and November, I kind of decided to give this book a bit of a go, and I'm glad I did, and I feel a bit of a silly Billy now. What this issue does well is it kind of ties up kind of where the story's gone, and I think if you'd have read this as a trade, you see that journey much better, where when you're reading it from issue to issue, you're judging each issue. And kind of last issue it seemed like we went on this irrelevant kind of side journey, but this issue kind of tells why that wasn't irrelevant and why it's part of the bigger story that they're telling here. And I feel a bit of a silly Billy for not giving it more time, because this issue was really good. You know, Constantine definitely cast a spell on me to put it back on my pull list, and I really enjoyed it, and I do feel, like I say, a bit silly for dropping it. But it's kind of one of the problems these days for us comic buyers. And there were so many books that often we haven't got that patience you would have had years ago to stick with a book, that you're like, well, this book's not doing it for me, and there's like 5 other books here I can pick from that might be good. So it's kind of, yeah, that is the dilemma and the problem. This issue, John kind of outwardly seems like he's hit rock bottom. I'm kind of hoping, because at times in this issue he does seem a bit of a callous bastard, and you're like, no way. But I'm hoping, kind of like with Doctor Who, how sometimes the Doctor will be a step ahead of everyone, and he'll know he can't save everybody. So it's trying to save the most people he can, and he might seem callous because he knows that person over there, there's no way he can save them, but these rest of these people I can save. And he might seem callous, but he's just doing the math and he's making the difficult choices. And I'm hoping this is what's going here with Constantine, that he doesn't know all the answers yet, but he already knows he can't save everybody. And I'm hoping that's what it is, and it isn't that he's just a callous bastard. So I'm sticking to that. The book is kind of, we have 2 artists, and it's kind of split between the present and the past. And I like that I love that as a way to illustrate that, to have 2 artists. I think that's the best way to use 2 artists on a book, to have 2 stories set in 2 different time zones. The modern day stories, Constantine going around these different places, seemingly he's in rock bottom, getting drunk, but you kind of feel that he's kind of sussing things out a bit more. We then have a tale from his past of when he's in this band, and you gather that they're using magic spells in their song words, and using all this magic. And this one woman in the band called Veronica, deeply in love with John. He obviously does not feel the same way. There's a bit of a dick to her, and she's having real trouble. That magic is really affecting her life, as her parents no longer remember who she is. And she's really terrified, and John, like I said, is a bit of a dick. He's like, well, you know, you're either in with us and do all this magic, or you're not. There's no in between. And it's kind of like, it's screwing up her life, dude. She needs help. But he's whether he's too into the whole magic thing or what, but he's a total dick with the whole situation. And it's her story of kind of have downward spiral, which is really like the emotional core of this issue. And then we get this big reveal at the end that ties everything together from the last 3 issues, this issue, and the 2 separate stories, and it ties it all together with a nice big bow, and you're like, wow, that was bloody awesome. So yeah, really enjoyed this, and I'm going to put it back on my pull list, and I'm giving Constantine the Hellblazer issue number 4 5 stars out of 5. So next up we have Martian Manhunter issue number 4. This book, I'm enjoying it. I think the art for me is the high point. Really love the art. I am finding it at times a bit confusing, though the stories are coming together. There are aspects of it I don't quite understand yet, but I'm hoping that that's kind of going to be revealed as we go on. I like that we're beginning to see where all our separate stories are going to join up. That is good. And there are some great twists in this issue where you think it's going one way, then it goes another. But overall, I think just the confusion with the book is kind of hurting it for me. And I hope people stick with it, very much like Constantine. I hope they stick with it, because I'm hoping that we've got a destination here that's going to be worth all the confusion in the end. But I'm going to give Martian Manhunter issue number 4 4 stars out of 5. We then have Black Canary issue number 4. This was just a brilliant book, brilliant series. We learn a lot more about Maeve this issue. She's kidnapped Ditto, this little child who seemingly is wanted by aliens, and Black Canary has been protecting her. But Maeve, the former lead singer for the band that Black Canary's taken over from, she's kidnapped her, and we learn a lot more about her past and also her future. We kind of learn her motives for taking Ditto, and really interesting stuff. Really made me care a lot more about the character of Maeve, and I'm really interested to see where her character's going to go now. Where, like, when they've introduced her a few issues back, while I thought it was interesting we had the ex-singer, it wasn't a character I was really that interested in, but this issue changes that up. We also have a mysterious white lady, and why white? I mean, she's dressed in white. My immediate thought was White Canary. I don't know too much of my DC history. I don't know if in the original comics Black Canary had a sister. I don't know none of that. But of course I'm a big fan of the TV show Arrow, and we know her sister died in that, and she's going to get brought back as the White Canary. So I'm kind of wondering, is that going to be revealed as a thing here, or is it some totally different character that they're introducing and they're kind of teasing us with that it might be the White Canary? Either way, I'm definitely intrigued to see how that's go. Really loved seeing Black Canary this issue, as she's kind of really on the case trying to find Ditto. All in all, this was another really great issue of what's been a great series so far, and I give Black Canary issue number 4 5 stars out of 5. And our final DC book of this week, we have Superman Wonder Woman issue number 21. But the basic plot here is that now that his secret identity has been revealed, the government have kind of taken his friends and family, have taken him in for questioning, and Superman went to see the president to kind of find out what's happening, and he's on his way. But Wonder Woman, Steve Trevor told her beforehand, and she's already got there, and she's using her a lasso of truth to kind of reveal, so that they can ask the people questions to prove that they know nothing about any kind of alien plot that Superman might be involved with. I like the whole idea of the government being scared that Superman's because it's kind of been this big alien plot, because like it's the kind of stupid thing governments would do, because the politicians aren't the most smartest of people, or at least that's the way it often seems. And you'd think when it's just been revealed, and even though Superman has saved the Earth countless times, they would be all like, oh, can we trust him now? So yeah, because certainly the way that Superman's been treated, it kind of you're kind of proving the fact that he was right to keep his identity secret the way everything's been going, you know. Superman's a bit pissed this issue with Wonder Woman. He feels she's kind of betrayed him by using her lasso on all of his friends and family, but she was only doing it to kind of get them released, and yes, she didn't listen to what he asked her to do. But you know, dude, that's women. Like I'm a married man of 2 years, and I love my wife dearly. But yeah, that is just marriage. You know, I kind of, my wife will ask me my opinion, and I'll say one thing, and then she'll do totally the other thing. And you're thinking, well, why did you ask my opinion? You know, that's just relationships. And I'm like, I didn't understand why Superman got the super soaks with Wonder Woman, because at the end of the day, I can understand him maybe being a bit upset with her, but you gotta recognize she's doing it out of love. You know, that's why she's doing this, because her way would have been a different way. However, I did like that we got to see Superman in charge. That's something I don't think we've seen enough since DC relaunched all the books with the New 52. And I like that he felt like this authoritarian character in charge. Yet nobody listens to him in this issue, but at least he's trying to take charge. All in all, I'm still really enjoying the Superman books, and I'm giving Superman Wonder Woman issue number 21 4 stars out of 5. So those are the DC books. Next up, I'm going to make my Marvel and review the books I got from Marvel this week. So next up we have Marvel, and I have 5 books from Marvel. First up we have, going with our Secret Wars tie-ins, we have Age of Apocalypse issue number 4. It's a bit of a cheesecakey cover. I hate when they do these kind of poses with the female characters. You'd never ever see them put like Captain America or Spider-Man in that kind of position. So those covers do bug me a bit. I don't like it, but don't let it put you off this issue, because it's a really great issue. The last 2 issues of this book, it's really coming to its own, and the story is really moving now. Apocalypse has unleashed the legacy virus, and because he wants to see survival of the fittest. And one of the great things about these Secret Wars books is because it's kind of a world we're not going to revisit, kind of the stakes are a lot higher, because any character can die, because they don't have to. Usually when you read a Marvel or DC book, you know when a big character is going to die months in advance. Where with this, you don't know with any of the characters, because like I say, they've got that extra bit of freedom, and the writers are taking full advantage of that. So right from the beginning, the stakes are high, big characters are dying, and there's big developments here. Our kind of cast are split into two. Here are kind of two sides have joined together now, because the legacy virus has been released, and it's totally changed the whole dynamic that was going on. So they've kind of joined sides now, as we have kind of like mutants losing control of their powers and having to be put down. We then have our other half of the group who are trying to find Jean Grey, and they kind of stumble into something a bit bigger, and by the end of the book you can see how both stories are going to join up next issue. So I like the pacing of the book, and kind of how the stories are kind of organically coming together, or at least it had very organically feeling. The star of this issue for me is Emma Frost. She deserves to be on the cover. She's the star. There's a real heart-wrenching scene where she has a difficult decision, but then there's other scenes where she's kicking ass, and I just really loved how she was written in this book, and I thought she was by far the standout character here, and I'm definitely, rooting her on. Really looking forward to where the next issue is going to go and how it's all going to end up. But this was a really strong issue from this series, and I give Age of Apocalypse issue number 4 5 stars out of 5. So next up we have the Infinity Gauntlet issue number 4. The Novas and their kind of band of characters go to Warlock because he has got this soul gem, and they're trying to get all the gems together to put into the gauntlet to defeat these bugs. He is not going to give up his gem, so it ends up with them all fighting it out. And by the end of the issue, we have like a big reveal, and we also have Thanos showing his true colours, and things really kind of changing the status quo. I really like the art in this issue. I must really speak on it. Dustin Weaver does a really great job art-wise. But there's this moment when they're going to fight, and Nova goes into Infinity Armor, and kind of just the way it all kind of happens, for me, I had a very kind of manga anime kind of feel. I'm not the biggest authority on that, but it just had that whole kind of feel for me, which I really liked. I got a kick out of. I did kind of question, would Affinity and Gauntlet powered Thanos be able to beat God Emperor Doom? Because like you've got all these different aspects to the different gems, so you'd gotta think he'd be at least as powerful, if maybe more powerful. I'd be really interested to see that showdown. And if there was one way for this book to go, it'd be really interesting if that's where it headed. That Thanos kind of got out of this world and came over into the main Secret Wars book. But I don't know if any of these kind of series are ever going to kind of tie into Secret Wars. Which I don't know how I feel about that, if I would prefer for them in the last issue to kind of tie into the bigger story, or to just stay their separate things. I don't know which would be the best. I did get slightly confused this issue with some of the stuff that was going on when Nova was battling Warlock. I just didn't understand totally some of the implications and stuff, and I hope it gets cleared up next issue. Also, kind of didn't totally get what the Soul Gem was doing. But all in all, though, I really enjoyed this. For me, the art was the star of the issue, but I do like how the story's moving, and again, it feels like the story is kind of coming together, and the last issue you know where it's going with the big showdown, and I like where it's heading, and I give Infinity Gauntlet issue number 4 4 stars out of 5. Next up we have House of M issue number 3, and this is the thing with these books, like you have like Infinity Gauntlet, which has been basically I think once a month, and where House of M seems to be every 2 weeks, and so it's just strange, some of the books. I enjoyed this issue. I liked Quicksilver. He has taken over from his father. He's kind of usurped his father to become the new king. And I like the kind of politics that he plays to get everybody on side. That was really cool, and I really like that. We then have that juxtapositioned by Magneto, you know, and I liked the dynamic with him and Polaris, but kind of Magneto in this was almost a cartoon character. It was almost written for fun and was more of a comical character than a serious character, and at times it seemed like the book didn't know what it wanted to be. It didn't know if it wanted to be a comedy kind of action kind of deal, or if it wanted to be a political drama based in a world of superheroes. And kind of, it didn't quite know which, and at times it felt like the book was struggling with itself, because Magneto was very much almost a caricature. Where then you've got kind of the more serious stuff that's going on. Though Quicksilver is doing things in a funny way, there is that kind of political aspect to what he's pulling off, kind of in the vein of something like a Game of Thrones. So at times the book did kind of be at odds with what it wanted to be. I liked, however, how kind of by the end the rebels that Magneto is trying to kill, they kind of end up on the same side, because it's kind of the whole, you know, the enemy of my enemy is my friend, and like Quicksilver's a lot worse than Magneto ever was. So they kind of want to overthrow Quicksilver now. So I liked that dynamic and how the book went in that direction. But at times, like I say, this book did seem to be at odds with itself. And I'm going to give issue 3 of House of M 4 stars out of 5. So next up we have Traveling to a Galaxy Far, Far Away for Star Wars Lando, issue number 4. This was another Star Wars series that I really enjoyed. This issue was a bit slow moving, and it doesn't seem like, until the end, it didn't seem like the plot had moved any further forward. You know, they're still stuck on the ship. But at least by the end, Chanaf Char has caught up with them, and we get big development with Chanaf Char and Lando, so that was interesting. So, like I say, by the end, but for a lot of the issue, it was a lot of talking. And yeah, I'm finding the talking really interesting, because it's really good finding out what the galaxy knows about the Sith and about the Emperor, because that was one of the things that's really struck home with me with episode 3, is that the galaxy doesn't know that the Emperor is a Sith Lord, and all what he did. They just think he's this old dude who's been there since before the Clone Wars. So I really like that dynamic, and how kind of the shock of why Palpatine got this big collection of Sith artifacts. I also liked how the Sith artifacts kind of corrupt people, and as people in proximity to them I get changed. So I like that kind of string to the bow as well. It ends really good, really strong, but for a lot of the issue, unless you're really into learning more about the Star Wars universe, you might get a bit tired of the slow pace. But like I say, it kicks up for the end, and I'm really enjoying the series, and I'm going to give Lando issue number 4 stars out of 5. So our final Marvel review for this part of the video is Captain America White, issue number 1. This book, again, art wise, I loved it. Tim Sale does just an awesome job art wise. There were some really great double page spreads, you know, some really great moments. The basic gist of the book is that Captain America wakes up and he's been woken up by the Avengers, and he's dealing with Bucky's death, and he's kind of got survivor's guilt that he feels he didn't protect Bucky. So the book goes back to their first meeting with Nick Fury and his Howling Commandos during World War II, and it's really brilliant. You've got vintage Nick Fury, who's just as cantankerous as I imagine him to be, and is really cool. You've got, his Howling Commandos. Dum Dum Dugan has a fight with Steve Rogers because he's jealous of all the women being attracted to Steve Rogers, not knowing that Steve Rogers is Captain America, and that was another little wrinkle I really liked. I loved the dynamic between Bucky and Cap, kind of like big brother, little brother kind of dynamic that I really liked. All in all, it was a really great book. If you like that first Captain America book, movie, the first Avenger, you'll like this, because it's that same kind of vibe. The second half of the book, they reprint issue 0 from 2008, which I never knew they did a Captain America White issue 0, but they did. And that basically follows the story of how Bucky found out that Captain America was Steve Rogers, and how he became Bucky. So I liked that story as well, and it's written in the same kind of looking back kind of feel of Cap kind of questioning him. Could he have done more? If he'd have done things differently, would Bucky still be alive? And so it's all, but there's also still that kind of sense of fun and naivete that you had from that first film. So I really liked this. I did kind of wonder why Zero was at the back. The only thing I can think is that maybe Marvel thought if they put the reprint at the back, people would pick it up and say, no, I've got this, where by putting the newer one at the front, they could say people would know it's a new book. But yeah, I really liked this. I had a lot of fun with it, and I've added it to my pool, so I will be getting the rest of this series, as it's really good. And I give Captain America White, issue number 1, 5 stars out of 5. So those are my reviews. Last book to review now is my pick of the week. So here we are now, my pick of the week, and this week it is Star Wars issue number 9. It was a tough week to pick my pick of the week this week. There could have been easily 5-6 books I could have gone with this week, but in the end I went with this one. I just think the biggest achievement of this book is how Jason Aaron has so captured the characters. Han and Leia, they feel like Han and Leia from the beginning of Empire Strikes Back, where they're not quite together, but there's an attraction there. Luke has got that naivety that he had in the first 2 movies, and all the characters just feel really spot on, and that just makes it really feel really authentic. I like the mystery of this woman, and is she Han Solo's wife? We know there's more to the story. We've got a gist of that, but we haven't got the full story to that yet, so I'm looking forward to finding out what exactly is going on there. But the story that I'm really enjoying the most is Luke's story. While I like this trio and the interaction between this trio, it's Luke's story is the one that is I'm really excited about. We're getting to see what the universe, the rest of the galaxy know of the Jedi and the Sith, because the Jedi haven't been around by about 2 decades at this point, since the galaxy last saw the Jedi, and they were wiped out. So they're kind of becoming legend, and the stuff that they had is becoming collector's items, and Luke kind of walking around with a lightsaber has become kind of a walking target, and he kind of gets himself in deep trouble with this issue, and I'm really enjoying that story and seeing the different people he's interacting with and the things that we're finding out. Also thought it was a nice touch to have the Magna Guards turn up from episode 3. That was really cool, and I really enjoyed seeing the rebel leaders at the end. Luke's been captured and he's in danger, but they're kind of discussing we can't do nothing, and then you have somebody step in who's like, yeah, I've got this. So I'm really enjoying the book. The art as well from Stuart Immonen is just fantastic. He does such a great job with not just the ships and stuff, but also with the actual characters as well. He does a great job. All in all, this was an absolute joy, and if you're a Star Wars fan, you owe it to yourself to be reading this book. I give Star Wars issue number 9 my pick of the week. So here we are at the end of the video, which can mean only one thing. It's time to find out who the company of the week is for the 3rd week of September 2015. What this is every week I take the Marvel books I've read, I add the scores together, I divide by the number of Marvel books I've reviewed, and that gives me an average score. I do the same then for DC and the Indies, and whoever gets the highest average score becomes the company of the week. This week we have a tie in 2nd place with an average rating of 4.5. We have Marvel and DC tied. So in 1st place with an average rating of 4.7 are the Indies, which this week's Indies were Image and Valiant. So yeah, the Indies this week take the company of the week. But as you can tell from them average scores, 4.7, 4.5, it was a good week book-wise. There were some very good books this week. I mentioned it in my pick of the week. There were about 6 books that could have easily made a case for being pick of the week. That's how good of a week it was. And like, there were no stinkers. There was no book I walked away from feeling really negative and questioning whether I want to carry on with this book. Every book this week I enjoyed on different levels, but I enjoyed everything, and those are the weeks I loved the most. I will be back on Wednesday, which at the time as uploading this will probably be tomorrow, with my haul video. 11 books I'm getting this week, but there's one book that hopefully will come in from last week, so that should be 12. I like that number, 10, 12. That's probably my perfect number for books a week. So yeah, that will be up on Wednesday, my haul video, and then my review video will be up some point the weekend. So yeah, thank you very much once again for sticking with me to the end and watching the video. If you did enjoy it, please give me those beautiful thumbs up. Let me know you enjoyed what I'm doing. I hope you've all are well and you've all had a good comic book filled week. All it leaves me to say now is that I've been Jason. This has been my comic book reviews from the Dude Cave. Bye for now.